2022. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gomez,
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Vice Chair Shively,
Here?
Chair Hammond. Absent. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jimenez.
Please stand.
At this time, we have no presentations. If we can go to item 6, consent calendar. Anybody have any changes for the Planning Commission minutes for September 7th?
None, I have none.
Commissioner Gomez, none for me.
Okay. In item 6B, any items, you okay with the names provided? On the consent calendar, so I'm just asking if you guys are agreed with the names or not. Or you want to pull it off for comments?
Can we pull it up for comments, please?
We have to vote for that, correct?
Are you asking if we need to vote to pull the item?
Pull the item.
No, you don't have to vote to pull the item. But I would recommend that you do the consent calendar, the balance of the consent calendar, and then once that's done, then we'll do item 6B.
Okay, so at this time, we'll remove item 6B from the consent calendar. And if we can have motions for approve the consent calendar. Got a motion from Commissioner Lopez. And a second from Commissioner Jimenez.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Shively.
Yes.
Thank you. By a motion of 4 yeses, this motion passes.
Do we have anybody to do presentation for item 6B?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Plan Commission. Tonight we have before you a proposal to name 5 streets within tentative track map 36647. Currently, some background information. This track map was actually approved by the City Council September of 2022, which consisted of subdividing 54 acres into 90 single-family lots. Currently, city staff has worked with the applicant, Matt Matson, who's actually in attendance in Zoom, and we also work with the County of Riverside's GIS department to ensure that these names are adequate and per their standards. And there's no duplicity in street naming throughout the whole county. So that's how we came up with these street names. So the applicant's proposing for Street A, Ballesteros Street, Street B, Royal County Court. Street C is actually existing. It's just a continuation of the track map located east. Street D is Bolt Street. Street E, Kingsley Court, Street F is Albatross, which is a continuation of the track map to the north. Street G is D. Vicencio Avenue, and Street H is Bandon Avenue, which also is a continuation of the track map to the north. So the applicant is actually requesting approval of the street name so that way he could continue on with the process and also get his final track map approved so he could start building homes. That concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Just a quick question. What's the cross street? Can you remind me, please? It's Evans Road, and what's the other cross street?
Yeah, it's actually Evans Road. And I could show you kind of like a vicinity map of where it's located. So one of the streets that I mentioned is actually a continuation of Evans Road. It goes across, it's called Marbella Gate, and that one's just a continuance. So, and the track map to the north has two existing street names that are being utilized, and they're currently constructing homes there.
Okay.
Can you go back to the options, name options? Thank you. Commissioner Jimenez? Yeah.
I guess my main concern when I was looking at this, normally we try to say, like, if they go this way, it's an avenue, if they go this way, it's a street, courts are pockets. And there's a couple, particularly that, like Balacera Street, but then Street B is Royal County Court instead of street.
Yeah, I could show you the exhibit here.
Yeah.
So it's basically just a cul-de-sac. So eventually, when somebody looks at the street name, they'll know that it cul-de-sacs, pretty much dead ends. And we just wanted to stay consistent with what we have to the north also.
But Balacera Street, even though it's a dead end, it's street, not court.
Yes, that's correct. But as I was mentioning, we also ran this to the Riverside County GIS department, and they also said that street was fine. So in this case, you just can't have a court going into a court. That's just duplicity.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we decided not to go with court. Ballesteros Court going into Kingsley Court. There's just
Okay.
too many courts.
And Kingsley Avenue wouldn't make sense when there's nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because
Okay.
it's very, very, very short, very short street.
Okay, I guess, other than that, thank you for clarifying. My only question is D. Vicenzo. I don't know if that one's very difficult. I don't know how the commission feels about that name, just because when I was looking at it, it seemed a little bit difficult to explain, and I don't know if it went through it. Was there any kind of theme or anything that went into the names?
No, these are just basically street names. We were going through a variety of options. We actually went through three resubmittals of street names. It's a long process with the county just to get their, response. So there is no theme to these names. We just want to find a street name that's not being utilized in the county of Riverside.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Lopez. I agreed with Commissioner Jimenez on Street G, De Vincenzo Avenue. I kind of preferred option 4 for that one, Trevino Avenue. But is the applicant open? The applicant suggested every single option, right? Option 1 through 4. That was.
Yeah, so the applicant, the way the street naming review goes, the applicant actually proposes the street names. So he's the one who kind of selected these street names, and then I had to pretty much get it okayed by the County of Riverside's GIS department. So if you desire, you're able to kind of pick whatever option you want.
Okay. Yeah, for Street G, I would prefer option 4, Trevino Avenue. And I feel as if Street D, Boat Street, it feels like it's not part of the theme on it. Either option 2 or 3 would be fine with me.
Anybody else? Okay. I do agree with Commissioner Lopez as well. Is it possible to use a street name from a different street D name for a street G name and another option? We
Yes.
can mix and match?
Yes, you actually have that option. And please note that these were kind of like the last review of options that the applicant gave me. So if you want to pick, for example, Street A, if you want to select option 3 of Street E, feel free to do so.
Commissioner Lopez, would you like to revise your street names?
For Street D, I'm open to any. I'm leaning towards Kutcher Street or Kutcher Street for option 3 on Street D. And for Street G, I'm leaning towards option 4, Trevino Avenue.
Anybody else?
I agree with those options as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Gomez.
Commissioner Menes?
I'm good with those two if we wanted, because we should try to keep it where if it's street, we match it up with the street, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of looking at it, it has somewhat, some of these streets have somewhat of a rural title to them a little bit, so that I'm okay with the names suggested from Commissioner Lopez as well, so. Do we have to open up for a public comment since we pulled this agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you would have open up the public comment.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay.
Is there any member of public wishing to speak on these street names? Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Yes, sir. There's a Matson.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What Commissioner Lopez suggested is acceptable to us.
Okay.
Can I ask, though, were all of the options vetted through the county?
Yes, they were actually vetted through the county.
Then that's acceptable.
Okay. Any other member of public wish to speak on this matter? No, we'll go ahead and close public comment. If we need to discuss it further, we can do so. If not, we go ahead and make a motion for approval or denial, or? Okay, we can have a motion. Got a motion from Commissioner Lopez? We'll need a second. And we got a second for Commissioner Lopez. So this is a motion for approval for the street names with the revisions to change Street H to Trevino and Street D to Kachar.
Mr. Chair, is that G or H?
Street,
Yeah, that's Street G.
G to Trevino, and then I think it's D
then
to
Kuchar.
Kuchar, or, yeah.
Correct.
sorry for the incorrect. We can have the vote.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively.
Yes?
By a motion of 4 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
We can go open up to public hearing. Item 7A, specific plan amendment SPA 21-05125, a proposed specific plan amendment to update the Green Valley specific plan for consistency with the Paris Valley Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan in compliance with Senate Bill 330. The applicant is Matthew Villalobos from Raintree Investment Corporation. The current action on this is continuation of this item to the Planning Commission meeting on October 19th. So if any member of public wishes to speak on this one particular item, they can do so at this time, or they can wait to have their comments heard on October 19th. Is there anybody in the public wishing to do so? Anybody on Zoom?
No, sir.
Thank you. So no vote is needed, correct?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that the commission take a motion to continue to October 19th
Okay.
and do a vote on it.
Okay, if we can have a motion for continuation to October 19th. We have a motion from Commissioner Gomez. And second from Commissioner Lopez.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively.
Yes.
Thank you. By a motion of 4 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now we got through the easy stuff. Now let's go with the good stuff. Item 7B, Conditional Use Permit 22-05199, a proposal to consider a conditional use permit to allow the establishment of a live music entertainment of Nairit, sorry if I mispronounced it, Nairit Restaurant. The project site is located at 140 South D Street on the northwest corner of D Street and 2nd Street in the promenade zone of the downtown specific plan. Requested action is to adopt Resolution 22-21 approving the CUP 22-05199 to allow live music entertainment at Nairit Restaurant based on the findings of the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval. And do we have any ex parte communications?
I have none.
I drove by the site for Commissioner Jimenez.
Commissioner Gomez, none for me.
So I have driven by the site a couple times. If we could have a presentation, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Alfredo Garcia. I'm your Associate Planner, and this evening, as mentioned, we'll be presenting the Conditional Use Permit 22-05199. Some information, the project site is located in the downtown specific plan area. It is on a 0.19 acre site, again, as mentioned, located in the downtown area. Some of its immediate surrounding land uses are a barber shop and the Paris Station apartments just to the north. To the west, we have the Transit Metrolink station. To the east, we have a vacant parking lot area. And to the south, we have the existing tire shop. As mentioned, the project site is located within the downtown specific plan. It has a land use called Downtown Promenade Zone, and it's surrounded by other similar uses to the north, to the south, and to the east, but a civic zone just to the west, which is for the Metrolink station. Here's a site photo view north along 2nd Street of the project site. This image is a view south along D Street. And here is a site photo of the view northeast at the terminus of 2nd Street along the Metrolink station parking lot area. A bit of background on the project site. The restaurant was built in the 1950s. It's always been used for restaurant purposes. As of January 4th of 2020, the property was acquired by the current owner. It is a sit-down restaurant with a beer and wine ABC license. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the owners suffered some economic hardship, which they, in their best interest, added outdoor music entertainment to generate some income. Unfortunately, because of the amplified music, it generated multiple complaints, therefore generating record calls for service by both departments, which would be our code enforcement and our local police. As mentioned in the specific plan in the staff report, live entertainment is allowed in the downtown promenade zone with the approval of a conditional use permit. On May of this year, staff met with the owners and provided information on how to process for the conditional use permit and to cease all entertainment activity. Unfortunately, some calls for service still continued to be received by staff, but I'm happy to report that as of August of this year, all music activity has stopped. Here's a site plan of the project site. It is comprised of just shy of 1,700 square foot existing restaurant, a detached existing storage building that is almost 500 square feet in size, 2 solid roof patios that are used as an accessory to the restaurant, outdoor dining for its visitors, and 6 parking stalls within the subject site, but supplemental parking has always been provided along D Street and on the Metrolink parking lot area. Here we have before you a floor plan of the subject site. The small pink or peach square that you see at the bottom part of the floor plan is where the dedicated area for the music entertainment is to be situated within the restaurant. Some of the operational characteristics, as mentioned in the staff report, there will be a total of 25 employees that will be working during the live music and entertainment activity. For security measures, the applicant has already installed cameras and hired 2 additional security officers. No improvements are being proposed for the site or for this CUP. Hours of operation are as follows. The restaurant hours operate from Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The restaurant hours on Friday and Sunday are from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. And the live entertainment music time frame will only be Saturdays and Sundays from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. The proposed live music and entertainment in conjunction with the existing restaurant will be consistent with the intent and the vision of the downtown area, which is basically to promote a variety of vibrant uses. Therefore, the recommended conditions of approval will ensure compatibility with its surrounding businesses and uses. And with that said, staff's recommendation this evening is for the Planning Commission to adopt PC Resolution 22-21, finding the project to be categorically exempt under CEQA, under existing facilities, and approving CUP 22-05199 based on the findings contained in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions that the Planning Commission may have. This evening, we also have Ms. Carla Torres and her husband and their family present to provide any further information for the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes, Commissioner Lopez. My first question is, you said that you guys received a series of complaints from that site. What exactly were the complaints about? Was it because the music was too loud, or is it because they were playing it past 10 p.m.?
I don't have the specific details. We did receive a generation of the violations and citations from our police department and our code enforcement department. It's one of the exhibits in the staff report. Some were for amplified music, and others were derived of activity that was, maybe 2 people didn't see eye to eye, or maybe some people lost certain property on the site. I can't expand a little bit more upon that. I believe maybe Sergeant Marshall may be on Zoom, or maybe not. But we can get more detailed information if you'd like.
Yeah. My follow-up question is are there any sensitive receptors in the area that will be affected by the music?
We did notify the Paris Station apartment tenants. We do know that some calls came from that location, but we don't have further information based past that.
And what's the distance from the apartments to the restaurant?
273 linear feet.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Thank you. Do you know what the maximum occupancy is for the inside restaurant portion?
I don't have the occupancy load calculation because it's based on CBC. I don't have that information.
Okay. I think that would be important to have because, I mean, if they're talking about 25 staff members at the same time already there and it's a very small space.
Yeah.
And with live music, I don't know if it's a banda, tamborazo, a norteña, which is 3 or 4 people, un trio, like, you know, I think that also makes a difference with the number of band members, and are they going to have, like, sounds? Is that something that we can limit, or?
Well, I do know that the CBC code makes all places that are open to the public to have an occupancy load plaque that they should not exceed. I'm sure that should still be present and visible.
But we don't know what that is because already
But
there's
I don't
25
know what
people
the
there.
max occupancy load is. I'm sorry.
Can you pull up the floor plan?
I can.
Site plan?
Okay, and you said there's not going to be any updates, right? So the trash can outside, can you go to the, one of the views, the,
Pictures?
Yeah.
yes, pictures? Like that white trash can right there that would still be there? And they would still have that green tarp? Because it said it had a covered patio in the back. Does it, is that considered the covered patio?
Right. So it has a solid roof patio in the back and a solid roof patio to the north.
Okay.
But you are correct in your statement. There are no proposed changes. Only the use is being proposed this evening.
Okay, and the use would transfer because you said when the complaints were coming in, it was outdoor music. Now they're proposing indoor music?
That is correct. The music activity is being taken place at the patio to the north or to the side of the building, if you're looking at it along D Street. So it was outside.
Okay, can you go back to floor plan?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if we can do a quick calculation or look up to see what the maximum occupancy is, because it's 1699 square feet for indoors, right?
Correct, just shy of 1,700 square feet.
Okay. 704 square feet. I don't know how big the kitchen area is.
No.
1 to 200 in kitchen and 1 to 15 in the dining area.
So how does the city, this is Commissioner Gomez, how does the city calculate occupancy?
There is a table in the CBC code that shows uses, and that use has a certain number that's been calculated or provided to us, and then based on the square footage, you divide it by that, and that gives you the occupancy
Can we
load.
pull that up right now, or does it take too long to calculate?
So the square footage for the dining area, because it's open seating, is 1 to 15, and the square footage in the kitchen area is 1 to 200.
But in this particular case, we're only allowing indoor, so I'm not sure we should focus on the concentration of the indoor, because that's where they are limiting their live entertainment, if we want to focus in that area, because they're not supposed to, based on the way we're recommending, there should be no outdoor entertainment.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
But that's why the occupancy inside is so important to me, because if you have
Yeah.
25 employees already and then you have a band, I'm thinking about safety. So if something happens and the fire marshal has to be called out, and I'm thinking evacuations. So I'm thinking of it from a safety perspective.
Of course.
Can you go back to the floor plan diagram with the square footage numbers in there?
This is the floor plan.
There's
the
another, there's a
site plan?
colored one. There was a colored one.
Oh, this one?
That one.
I could take the colors out. If
No,
that-
no.
No?
That's fine.
Oh, we want the colors. Okay.
So you basically, 1,000 foot of kitchen is 1 to 5, and then you got 700 and something square feet of dining space, which is 1 to 15. 30, 40, 45-ish. So you're at about 55-ish people for the interior of the kit of the restaurant. Somewhere around there, plus or minus.
So Commissioner,
That includes employees.
if I can add some additional information. So planning cannot condition for an X number of people. That's determined by the fire department, and the fire department would have a plaque inside the building. And if for any reason they exceed that capacity, the fire department will shut them down.
No, I understand that. That's why I want to know, because I want to know what it is, and nobody seems to know what, because I could look over here and see that's what it is. At the school where
Right.
I work at, I know what the maximum occupancy is in every building
Right.
and every classroom. But for that same reason, I wouldn't stack up 3 classrooms in one classroom, or say, can I add this on top of that and bring in extra people? So I guess that's where my concern is coming from. I know that there's a limit. My concern is that it's a very small space. I don't know what the occupancy is, and they're already telling us there's gonna be 25 staff members there. So that kind of helps determine, for safety reasons, whether it's something, that is already potentially maybe over if we already have 25 people inside.
Would the applicant perhaps provide that information if they're aware of their capacity in the restaurant?
So the capacity is around 55-ish, somewhere.
Mr. Chair, if I may, but before we proceed to questions for the applicant, I would
Correct.
recommend that the commission complete questions for staff.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Do you know if I know when we have warehouse-type buildings or things like that, we do have sensors or ways to measure the sensitive receptors, and because this is so close to an apartment building or apartment complex, is there a code that limits or tells us what the limit is for sound to carry to a certain point when we have something like this?
It's 80 decibels for commercial areas.
80 decibels? Do you happen to know what that, I know that,
It's loud.
the comparison is,
It's loud.
it's loud, 80 is loud?
What is a noise ordinance state? Is it in the hours of the noise on the weekends and Sunday?
It's in the conditions of approval.
I have it, okay.
I think you're talking about condition 10 of the conditions of approval.
That is correct.
Okay, I have the numbers, and also I just wanted to clarify that this applies because it states that if windows and doors need to stay shut, and also that if they have 3 verified complaints are received by staff or the Riverside County Sheriff's Department within a calendar year, the conditions of approval can be revoked, right?
Correct.
And it also, it's clear, so they would only have music on Saturday and Sundays from 4 to 10?
That is correct.
Is that something we can, Is that something that we can condition? I'm just thinking Friday night would have been better because, you know, if you go Sunday till really late, people work on Monday. Friday and Saturdays, I think, are usually, but I don't know. I'm not in the restaurant business.
Well, you know, perhaps Ms. Torres can talk a little bit more about that. The Saturday and Sunday was proposed by them.
Okay.
We didn't condition them to that day. That was something they had asked for.
Okay. And given the limitations or the area zoning, if they wanted to come back and propose like a full week of music, that's something because of the zoning that they can do. I don't know if there's noise restraints during the week or it changes.
I think looking at the noise ordinance, it's standard throughout the week. But if they decide that they need to amend the timeframe, they would have to come back unless they let the commissioners know now if they want a wider range of days.
This is Commissioner Gomez. By any chance, do you know what days of the week these complaints were coming from? Were they coming during the week or were they coming on the weekends?
Yeah, the days of the week are listed in the matrix as one of the exhibits. Unfortunately, I don't have the matrix present here with me right now.
Don't either.
Oh,
Sorry.
Fortunately. The matrix shows the date and the type of complaint it was.
Thank you. Oh. Okay.
And there's a letter from the
Thank you.
sheriff too in there. Commissioner Gomez.
Oh, sorry. Can I see the letter, please? I'm so sorry. Thank you.
If I can provide a quick summary, just looking at my calendar, is the complaints are Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. And it kind of varies between time. A lot of times, according to the record, it's sometimes 6, sometimes 11, sometimes past 10. So that's just a brief summary of what I could observe from that table that's provided.
Well, the very first one I pulled up on 8/10/2020, that's actually a Monday, and the call or they responded at 23:08.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
Do we need to decide on this today, or can we ask for a continuance?
I think you should probably listen to the whole record. I think there's
Right.
people from the public here.
Okay. Of course. No, I agree. I agree. Just wanted to see what my options are at this point.
I do have a question regarding the exterior patio in the along Second Street. Is it common to have a fenced chain link patio with the screening in there in the dining capacity? Is that permitted? I would we ask that it's permitted as a screened-in chain link type fence? Where that one right
The
there.
one with
The green.
screen fencing?
Yep.
We can look into the record. Typically, we don't allow chain link fence, but it could possibly be that it was there before. So we would have to verify that. If it is, then we can upgrade that.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Gomez. Does staff have any records of any improvements if any improvements have been made to this establishment since it was purchased in January?
Most of the permits that staff was able to pull from the building department records were prior to the purchase of the new owners in 2020.
So is it safe to say that the improvements were made prior to the sale?
Correct.
So to sell the property, or they were just done?
I'm not sure how the transactions were taking place, but some of them were like in 1996, some of them were in the early 2000s.
Oh, so probably not, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because I'm trying to think if it was done in order to sell it, or if it was done after.
We didn't find any records of anything recent
Recent.
in the 2000s. A lot of them took
The
place in the
pandemic
late
era.
90s that we found.
Okay. Does the staff find any issues with there not being an enclosure for the trash can?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. Yes. Has the staff found that there are any issues or anything, any negative impacts from having the trash can? This picture shows that the trash can is not closed. The covers should be on top. And so just looking at it from this angle, it looks like it's a movable trash can. Is there any way that we can work with the applicant to create an enclosure for it? Because if there's going to be a lot more traffic coming through because of the live entertainment, is that something that can be discussed?
You want to answer that, or?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I just kind of want to refocus this back to what's before the commission, which is whether or not we want to provide the indoor and use for the live entertainment.
Yes.
So I don't want us to get too away from that.
No.
But as I understand your question is that your concerns about the impact of indoor live entertainment upon, I guess, the trash situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. So that would be a concern for me just by looking at the photo and considering live entertainment in this restaurant. There's overflow parking as it is right now. However, but since this is being brought to our attention, I think that would be something that can be discussed with the applicant, just to avoid any traffic incidents or anything like that because of the potential traffic of restaurant goers, entertainment, vans pulling in and out for the equipment and such.
Okay, we can definitely look into it. It's probably an older building that didn't have any of these trash enclosure requirement, and they're probably, we can ask the applicant, but I'm guessing it's probably because if it's a trash day, they brought the trash enclosure out from somewhere on the property where it's previously, where it's currently located. So that's probably the current situation is in.
Yeah, or even if that's a location for it, that too, please.
Typically, I would guess not. It looks like a parking space, so they brought it out there for trash collection day, and
Yeah.
it's an older building, so there's unique situations that existed.
I think this is a good opportunity for us to have that conversation because if this is a very old building and it's been, no recent upgrades have been made to it, I think it would be just out of what you would consider, I'm trying to look for the word, in good faith, right, to work with the city on improvements.
We could definitely ask the applicant that option. I just want to remind the commission that the restaurant owners did receive economic hardship, again, due to the pandemic. They were trying to generate income, trying to make ends meet. It might be a little bit of a hardship to make them build a blocked, enclosed trash enclosure, but we could definitely still ask.
But I thought that the old, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the old owner the one that received hardship and that's why it was sold in January?
No, the new owners
The new owners who
The new
purchased it in January
Correct.
of this year,
of 2020.
2020.
of 2020. Okay, sorry, thank you.
It's okay.
Any further questions for staff?
One more. Are there any other restaurants in that area that have this? Oh my God. conditions of approval where they have live music there too? Or are there any surrounding restaurants? And if so, do they have these conditions of approval where they also have live music?
Not that we're aware of, that at least applied for a conditional use permit.
Okay, but not if we've had complaints about that either, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you trying to tell us something, or?
That was it for me.
That was it? Okay. Any further questions?
No,
Okay.
not for me.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, any member of public wishing to speak on this item may do so at this time.
Mr. Chair, but before we do that, I would recommend that you invite the applicant up to make a presentation if they so wish.
Does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Does she understand English? Do you need a translator?
They're coming up.
Okay.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Carla.
My name is Carla.
I'm the new owner. Soy la nueva dueña del restaurante Nayarit.
I am new owner of the Nayarit restaurant
Ajá. Desde enero 4 del 2020.
since January 4, 2020.
En la pandemia, cuando empezó, recién agarramos el restaurante
When the pandemic started, that's when we had barely gotten the restaurant.
y nos fue mal de ese año.
And at that year, it went really bad for us.
Por eso decidimos poner música,
And that's why we decided to put music.
pero estamos aquí este año para pedir el permiso para tener la música ya con permiso.
But we're here so that we want a permit to have the music.
Hemos estado batallando estos 3 años
For the last 3 years, we have been having a hard time
por lo que nos afectó la pandemia.
because the pandemic affected us.
Entonces queremos estar bien con la ciudad y con todos, tener nuestros permisos.
And so we want to do right by the city, and we want to have our permits
Para no afectar a nadie ni tener el permiso bien con todos.
because we don't want to affect anyone, and we want to have our permit.
También puedo contestar las preguntas que ellos estaban haciendo
And I could also answer the questions you were making
de los ocupantes
in regards to the occupants
y del bote de basura.
and the trash can.
Los ocupantes tenemos para 60 personas adentro y 30 afuera.
Un momentito.
Ujú.
In regards to the occupants, we have 60 inside and 30 outside.
Y lo que dijeron de las personas, de los trabajadores, son 25. Eso se divide en 2 turnos.
And what was said about the workers, there are 25, but it's between 2 shifts.
En la tarde tengo 15 y en la mañana hay 10.
In the afternoon, I have 15, and in the morning, I have 10.
La otra pregunta del bote de basura,
And the other question about the trash can,
ese bin es de recycle,
that bin is for recycling items,
el que se mira en la foto.
the one you can see on the picture.
Ese estaba atrás pegado al chain, al gate.
That was right next to that chain link fence.
Lo cambié, decidí cambiarlo
I decided to move it
porque en el Metrolink no tienen baño
because at the Metrolink station, they don't have a restroom.
y las personas iban y se hacían del baño ahí.
And people would go to the restroom there.
Fue un problema para nosotros.
That was a problem for us.
Entonces, por eso lo decidí mover a ese lugar.
And that's why I decided to move it
Ese
to
no
that
es-
place.
Ese no es parqueadero.
It's not a parking spot.
Por eso lo decidí. Ya parece que nos ha quitado, nos ha despejado a la gente que iba a hacer del baño ahí.
And I believe that ever since we moved it, it has kept the people away, the people that used to go and use the restroom there.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Any other questions?
Where was the trash can located before?
¿Y dónde se encontraba el bote de basura? ¿Dónde estaba antes?
Atrás, aquí, pegado al cerco en el que para el lado atrás.
Behind, right next to the fence, but on the back side.
Lo que pasa es que tengo dos cajas y un bote de basura porque la CRNR me pidió que tenga 3 bins de basura.
¿Quién le pidió?
La compañía de basura a los restaurantes.
Un momentito.
Entonces,
What happens is that I have 2 boxes and 1 trash can because the trash company, they asked the restaurants to have 3.
entonces tengo que dividirlos donde no estorbe el olor y donde pueda haber pasadero.
And so I have to put them where the smell doesn't bother us and also where they don't, they're not in the way.
Estamos dispuestos a trabajar con ustedes.
We're
a
willing
dar
to work
permiso
with you to get the
para
permit,
Que nos aprueben el
so
permiso.
that the permit would be approved.
Any questions for the applicant?
So behind the storage
Entonces,
area,
atrás
are
del área
those
del
also
almacén.
trash containers?
Esas también, ahí también tiene contenedores de basura.
Hay otro atrás en el storage.
There's another one back there by the storage.
2.
There are 2.
This is Commissioner Gomez. Gracias, señora. Le agradezco. My question is there anything,
Que sí.
you mentioned that you had to move the bin
Usted
to avoid
mencionó que tenía que mover el
the
bote
misuse of
para
it.
evadir el uso que
Have you
de los,
considered other options that may help with this issue for the
indigentes.
future?
¿Ha considerado usted alguna otra opción para ayudarle con ese problema para el futuro?
Pues solo que el Metrolink ponga baño porque es todos los que
Well,
bajan del bus.
The only option would be if the Metrolink station would put a bathroom, because those are the people that come out of the bus.
Porque estamos en la pura pasadera.
Because we're right on the area where they pass.
Del tren y del bus. Del
The-
tren y el camión.
From the train station, also the bus station.
So this is a question for staff. The building is on the zero property line, especially on the back where it meets the
Preguntas a las personas.
Metrolink station.
Are you just verifying that it's
And you're
next?
just verifying that it's the back of the restaurant is at zero property line.
Alfredo, I believe so. Can you bring up the site plan or aerial? There should be remote, just so it's easy to.
That is donde está el-
According to this, it's nearly to the existing storage building is a foot or 2 off. The existing patio is about 3 feet off or 4 feet off or something like that. So it's not at zero property line, but there's no room in to create a trash enclosure unless they use an open storage
walkway.
loading area.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just make one comment. Mr. Vice Chair, rather. I just want to verify that the applicant is understanding what the commission is talking about right now.
Dice que quiere verificar que usted está entendiendo de lo que está hablando el comisionado.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, any further questions for applicant? No? Okay.
Can I ask why, even after they were approached by the city, they continue to have music? Is that something I can ask?
Preguntando, ustedes están preguntando a ellos que si una vez que la ciudad vino a ver con ustedes, porque siguieron tocando música.
Yes, you can ask that question.
Que si puede preguntarle y dice sí, se le puede hacer esa pregunta. Entonces es la pregunta que una vez que la ciudad vinieron a ver con usted, ¿por qué ustedes siguieron pues, poniendo música?
Porque es por eso, porque solo con la música el fin de
Because
semana
only with having music during the weekend,
tengo más clientes para mantener a mis empleados.
I have more customers to be able to support my employees.
con lo que saco el fin de semana,
What
pago
I-
los empleados entre semana.
What I get during the weekend, ¿qué hace con el fin, entre semana, perdón? ¿Le paga los,
Empleados para el el fin de semana sale para...
what,
el fin de semana sale para pagar los empleados entre semana.
Entre
que no hay
semana.
tanto.
so what I get on the weekends, what we get on the weekends, it's enough to pay for the employees throughout the week.
No, I understand the reason for it, but
Entiendo
my
el
question
motivo,
was
pero
why after the city
que por qué después de
approached
que
them
la
to stop, they
ciudad
continue
les pidió
playing
que
music
hagan,
until August, from May till
siguieron,
August.
Tocando música de mayo a agosto.
Es la única manera de hacer el soporte para el restaurante.
That's the only way that we can support the restaurant.
Por eso seguía trabajando en esto para
That's
que me
why-
dieran permiso.
That's why I continued working towards this so that I could get the permit.
Okay, so she did start working when that happened. She started working
Entonces-
on gathering things together.
Entonces, en cuanto eso ocurrió, usted
Desde-
empezó a trabajar para conseguir el permiso.
Desde mayo tengo trabajando en el
I've
permiso.
been working to get the permit since May.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Gracias,
Thank you.
esa fue mi pregunta, gracias.
Any
One
further
more.
questions? Sure.
What kind of live music are they planning on having?
¿Qué
Like, is it a
tipo
band? Is it a
de
tamborazo?
música
Like, what kind of?
Planean, es una banda, es una, ¿qué tipo de música
Los
en
do-
vivo?
Los domingos es banda.
On Sundays is band,
Y
banda.
el sábado DJ o grupo que es menos personas.
And on Saturdays, it would be a DJ or a group.
Okay, thank you.
Bien, gracias.
You good?
A quick question to follow up on the entertainment.
Pregunta, para hacer seguimiento a la otra pregunta que le hizo la.
Is it a contracted group? Is it the same group every Sunday, or is it a different band
Dice que
every
si-
Sunday?
Le pregunté que si es el mismo grupo que va todos los domingos o si son bandas diferentes las que van todos los domingos.
Es el mismo grupo.
It's the same group.
Ellos también son el sostén de su casa, por eso pues también quieren seguir ahí en el trabajo.
And it's also what supports their home as well. And that's why they want to continue going there to work.
And why Saturday and Sunday instead of Friday and Saturday?
Porque es que tiene que tener la música en vivo el sábado y el domingo en vez del viernes y el sábado.
Porque el domingo es el día más fuerte de negocio.
Because Sunday is the strongest day of the business.
Aunque no lo crean.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So is that stage portable? Can it be relocated, removed?
This is interpreter. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Can the stage, is this stage portable, relocatable?
Que si
La tarima.
Sí, la tarima, el stage, o sea,
No tengo tarima, no tengo nada, solo tengo
pero
el
que si
espacio.
no, entonces no tiene. I don't have a stage, it's just the space.
Okay.
Nomás es el espacio para los músicos.
It's just the space that I have for the musicians.
Okay. Okay. Any further questions? No? Thank you, ma'am.
Gracias, señora.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we move on, I just want to make clear for the Ms. Translator, I just want to make sure that the applicant and the audience understands that we do have the little radio devices for the translation. I just want to make sure everyone knows that we have that and they have the opportunity to utilize that. And if the applicant or any member of the audience would like to utilize that, so the translator can, kind of like the UN, basically.
But to everybody, because she's only telling her.
I'm asking and they're saying they're fine.
But everybody, group in the back.
'Cause she,
¿Y todos los demás, las personas están bien? Sí.
so. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Koo. Any member of public wishes to speak on this item? Okay. If you can please state your name when you come up.
Hi, my name is Yolanda, and I am a resident who will be directly affected with the live entertainment. I wrote a letter, so hopefully I can read this within 3 minutes. And I just want to say, for one thing, first and foremost, to clarify, the music has not stopped and it is continuous. I have lived in the area since 2012, and it has been a weekend event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the past 10 years of my life. So I'm here tonight to voice my concerns regarding the proposal of the live entertainment venue. I'm here to oppose it, as my home will be directly in the line of fire. And as I stated, the past 10 years, I've had to endure Friday, Saturday, Sunday evenings of loud outdoor entertainment. The inside is a restaurant, so if there are no changes being made, then it will continue to remain outdoors. With all this entertainment, I have been witness to countless rowdy drunkenness, parking lot fights, car crashes, shootings that have resulted in deaths at this particular establishment throughout the past 10 years that I've lived in the area. I've been forced to deal with disruptions to my sleep due to being kept up by the entertainment every weekend. The only reason this has not had a significant health impact is due to the fact that I am off on weekends. For some reason, as they stated, the height of their business occurs on Sundays. It does include a live banda, and it plays way past the hours of 10 p.m., upwards of 2 a.m. And then Metrolink comes at 4:45. That is my alarm clock. Imagine having to start your work week off like that for the past 10 years. Okay, so as I stated, I'm not here to destroy anyone's livelihood or business ventures. I'm just here to ask for a reasonable standards from our local business neighbors. You should be providing a safe and reasonable environment to those who live in the direct community by having reasonable hours of operation, and provide us with the sense of security we deserve to feel in our neighborhood. At this time, I believe our city has more pressing issues to tackle with crime and the influx of transients in our neighborhood who clearly suffer from mental health issues on our street. Unfortunately, Metrolink station has brought a negative effect to our direct neighborhood. I no longer feel safe stepping outside my house, outside my property, walking in my neighborhood as transients loiter on every corner. So to tell me that I have to endure loud music Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, upwards of 2 a.m. It's unfair. I know the city is doing the best they can to combat all the issues in our neighborhood and keep the streets clean. I do see that happening, so that's why I'm here tonight. I'm asking you not to approve this venue. That, in my eyes, is only going to be a greater vessel to drunk patrons.
You can wrap it up, please.
Drunk driving, and possibly more crime to our already short-staffed officers.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I do have video if anybody ever needs to see this from past August 25th.
Thank you. You please
I've
state your
been-
first and last name?
Oh, why? So- my name is Joan Brooks.
Thank
I
you.
have been living in Paris all of my life, but prior to the military, I escaped. But now I'm back. I've been here since 2017. That music keeps me up every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And just like she says, yes, it goes countless from starts at 4:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, which this has to stop. I live at a 55 plus apartment duplex. I think the manager and the regional manager needs to be here discussing the same problem. Just like she said, there are homeless people everywhere. If you guys say, yes, it's fine for them to do this, it's going to be a mess. Nothing has changed. I've called a lot of times to 5-0 to let them know that if it's anybody else playing that music, they just shut them down faster than a doorknob. Closed mouth doesn't get fed. Something has to be done. We live 55 plus. The apartment duplex. I live on the south side. I hear it all. This has to stop. If it was a black club, it'd have been done shut down. Because it's Latino, it's still open. And they're keep on playing that music all hours of the night, because I'm listening to it. I can't even open my sliding glass door without the music blaring into my apartment. I can't have any fresh air because the music's too loud. And I will continue to call the police 24/7. Why? Because I'm a taxpayer. And if Paris can't do anything better than this, we got a problem. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other member of the public wish to speak on this matter? No, anybody else? Is there anybody on Zoom?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
David Marshall.
Hello, my name is Sergeant Marshall with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Paris Station. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to say that we have met with Ms. Carla Torres since May. We've only had 2 calls for service there, reference noise. They were both for outside bands playing. Ms. Carla Torres was cited back in August for that issue. Seeing that this is a request for indoor live music, we're okay with the guidelines set forth in the conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other additional Zoom?
No, sir.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to respond to these questions? The question was if she wishes to respond.
Si desea responder a las preguntas que las personas tuvieron que indicaron.
Pues es que están poniendo que viernes, sábado y domingo.
Well, they're saying it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Y nosotros paramos el viernes desde hace meses.
And
muchos.
months ago, we stopped doing it on Fridays.
Y ahorita ya casi ni los sábados tampoco.
And right now, we hardly ever do it on Saturdays
Porque estamos trabajando en el
because
permiso
we're working on the permit
para poder tener el permiso
to
bien.
be able to have the permit.
Entonces, pues yo estoy tratando de hacer todo bien
And so I'm trying to do things right.
para no afectar a nadie.
So I don't want to affect anyone.
Y también ese restaurante ya tiene años ahí.
And also, that restaurant has been there for years.
Por eso estoy también de acuerdo en trabajar con todos. Tengo también
And I also agree to work with everyone.
los horarios también que puse.
And I also have the hours that I wrote down.
Y lo que estoy cambiando es que el permiso lo quiero para adentro del restaurante.
And what I'm changing is that I want the permit for the inside of the restaurant,
Que no afecte afuera.
so that it won't not affect the outside.
El edificio que está en los de 55 más, creo que está 300.
Como 55.
El que dijeron de los seniors, creo que es.
Oh, the building that they were mentioning, the building for the seniors,
Me pone que en el permiso que está a 300 pies.
And the permit is saying that it's 300 feet
Ujú,
de retirado,
sí,
away.
eso me marcó en el radar cuando me lo...
That's what the radar showed.
Estoy tratando de hacer todo bien.
I'm trying to do things right.
También eso implica gasto.
And that also causes expenses.
Por eso estamos aquí para pedir el permiso.
And that's why we're here to ask for the permit.
Y creo que pues no nomás hay latinos aquí, hay de todo, creo que.
And I believe it's not just Latinos here, it's all kinds of people.
Entonces pues nomás estamos aquí para dispuestos a trabajar
And
en
that's
mi
it.
permiso.
We're just here and we're willing to work towards the permit.
Y para seguir teniendo a los empleados que también es
And
un
also,
soporte para todos.
to be able to continue having the employees because it's also their support for them as well.
Gracias.
Thank you.
No?
This is Commissioner Gomez.
It's okay to ask questions to the applicant.
Ask brief clarification questions of the applicant at this point.
Okay. I do have a brief question for the applicant. Just as a follow-up, did you get a chance to read the letter from the Sheriff's Department?
Can you
Pueden
go-
acercarse al
can you-
micrófono, por
thank
favor.
you.
¿Cuál carta la que tenemos aquí?
What letter, the one that we have here?
The one that was yes.
Sí, la que es.
The one dated August 10th.
La que le dieron el 10 de agosto.
El 10 de agosto. Pues la que fueron al restaurante o la que está aquí.
The one when they went to the restaurant or the one that's here?
Porque aquí está una.
Because there's one here.
Dice agosto 10, August 10, 2022.
Que el
Ah,
10
sí
de
está.
agosto del
Sí.
2022 es la fecha.
Ajá,
Oh, it's
está.
here, yes.
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, and if you read the last paragraph,
Si usted lee el último párrafo,
the city, the chief, it says he's reluctant to offer the condition
de que dice
because management has demonstrated a lack desire to adhere to the city ordinance.
dice que el jefe de policía de Perris está renuente de ofrecer esta condición porque el management del restaurante de Nayarit ha demostrado que no tiene deseo de cumplir con las reglas y eso es prueba de que de las quejas repetitivas del público y también los citatorios que reciben, perdón, por el ruido.
Pues yo entiendo todo esto, ¿no? Y yo sé que
I
tengo
do
que
understand
trabajar,
all this, and I know that I have to work,
pero yo no puedo despedir a más de 15 personas
but I'm not able to fire more than 15 people
una semana y decirle, espérenme un mes o dos,
a week, and then ask them to wait for me a month or 2 months.
porque esa gente pues se mantiene del cheque.
Because those people, they count on the check.
Entonces yo he tratado de bajar los días y estar
And
con
so
menos
I
horas.
have tried to lower their days and keep them with less hours.
Y las llamadas también para la policía. No sé si miraron que ya bajaron
And
también
also, I don't
muchísimo.
know if you have noticed that the police calls have reduced as well.
Y tengo
The reason-
dos securities, tengo cámaras 24
And I have the
horas.
security guards and I have the cameras on for 24 hours.
Entonces, nuestro equipo pensamos que estamos preparados para
Our
el permiso.
team, we believe we're prepared to have the permit.
The reason I asked if you
El
understood
motivo que yo
and
le
read that
pregunto
part
si usted
is
comprende
because
esa
earlier
parte.
you mentioned
Anteriormente usted mencionó
that the noise level,
el
the
nivel
music,
de ruido, la música,
that you've tried to eliminate it.
él la trató de eliminar.
When we have understanding that the city
Cuando tenemos nosotros
has asked it to stop completely.
comprendemos de que la ciudad le pidió que completamente, por completo, que parara.
Sí, quité 2 días y pues en realidad ya como quien dice días tengo y días no. Lo que no quiero es terminar de quitar el trabajo a todas las personas.
To reduce 2 days, and I have it some days I don't, but what I don't want is to take away all the days for all the people.
So what I'm understanding is that
Lo que
because of the
entiendo
music,
es que
you would
debería-
have to reduce hours or cut employees. Is that what I'm understanding?
Tengo que cortar a los empleados o disminuir las horas.
Les
Es lo
tengo
que, es lo que
si
estoy
yo
comprendiendo
no,
bien.
si yo no tengo música,
If I don't have music,
como si no tengo el permiso,
like if I don't have the permit,
tengo que despedir empleados.
I have to fire employees.
Do you understand that in order that the staff
De que
has requested
han pedido
that
de que
obviously the staff wants to work with the applicant, so do we.
obviamente quieren
But we
trabajar
want
con
to
la
make
gente.
sure that if there are conditions
Pero queremos asegurarnos
placed,
que se ponen unas condiciones
that the owner will adhere
la
to these
ley
conditions,
se va a adherir a las condiciones.
that you
Que las va a
fully understand
cumplir.
that if they are not adhered to,
Tiene que comprender que si
it
no
will
se
be
las
revoked.
cumple, se va a revocar el permiso.
Claro, por eso estamos esperando este día.
Of course, that's what we were waiting for this day.
Estuve trabajando mucho tiempo con Alfredo también
I
en
have been working
comunicación
with Alfredo as well a lot and communicating with him
para poder que lo fuera lo más pronto posible esto
so
para
that this could
terminar
happen
también
the sooner so that we could be done as well.
qué vamos a hacer nosotros
And to
porque es otra
determine what we're
decisión.
going to do because it's a transition.
Si este permiso no nos lo dan dado.
If
tenemos
we're not
que
going to
terminar.
get this permit.
very well. This was outdoor issues, but now that it's going to be, the condition is for it to be indoors only, I'd like to ask if the restaurant has the air conditioning
El restaurante tiene la
available and
refrigeración,
heating for
la
its
calefacción,
employees while the windows are to remain shut.
porque ya que las ventanas van a estar cerradas.
Todos los servicios están en funcionamiento.
All the services are functioning.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Gracias.
patience. Just want to make sure that she understands,
Piensa, yo nada más
as
quería
the
asegurarme
assistant
que
attorney mentioned earlier, that she completely
comprendía,
understands
que
what we're
comprende
trying to work with
estamos
here, with the applicant.
Claro
tratando
que
de
sí.
hacer y que
Y
estamos
estamos
tratando de
aquí
de
también
trabajar con
para
usted.
trabajar con ellos y
Of course,
para
and we're also here to work with you
determinar pues lo que se tiene que hacer.
and to determine what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions? Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it to the commissioners for discussions. Commissioner Gomez, you still wish for continuance?
Thank you for that question. At this time, getting the feedback from the staff today, obviously the staff has definitely wants to work with the applicant because they've had more contact with the applicant on a regular basis since the restaurant was asked not to have any music at all. The city is here to work with our small business owners and taking into consideration the pandemic and how it may have impacted the business, and also taking into consideration our residents' concerns here today and the impact of how loud the music used to be because it was outdoors. It sounds, reading the letter from the Sheriff's Department and reading the different types of reports that were actually, some of them were written, some of them were not, but the calls that were made is also, and I hope the applicant understands that it's also costly every time that one of our sheriff's deputies or members of our law enforcement needs to go out there and be involved in. Some of these are very, they're very dangerous for the public. I I don't think it's necessary for me to say exactly what they were, but the applicant knows very well what these calls were for. Considering that's it's a condition of approval for indoor only, the applicant has confirmed that it will be heating and air conditioning, because if there isn't, right, then they have to open the windows. And that was an issue that our residents have. It sounds like even the residents at some point understand that it's a business and that this business has been there for a very long time. But it's the working together with the residents and understanding that you're part of the community as a business as well. Whether you live in the city or not, if you have an establishment here and you have a business, you're part of the community, and being a part of that community comes with having to work with and listen and work together. I believe that this is a very strong letter from the Sheriff's Department. They're reluctant, but as we heard from Sergeant Marshall, if it's an enclosed permit and if music is to remain indoors, then they would be willing to support the business as well. So those are things to consider in our decision today. And I understand that from the applicant's point of view, where this type of business holds jobs, it does support families as well. And I think that we've made it very clear to the applicant as well that this is a conditional permit. And if these conditions are not met, I'm not sure if there is, but I believe there's is it 3 times? So you even have more opportunities after the conditional, 3 opportunities to make up for it. After that, it's revoked. And so we've done our part to listen, to support, but we also need the applicant and the establishment altogether, your security, your musicians, your staff members, to be a part of that positive impact, to show that you are part of the community and you do consider the residents as well. Because even the Sheriff's Department's considering the establishment. Nobody said shut it down. They said, if these conditions are met, we will approve it. And that's what we're here to do. And I think that will definitely be taken into consideration today. Thank you. I'm done.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes, I think it's very disappointing concerning that there's many complaints coming out of this establishment, because we have to be very considerate of the neighbors in the area. And I feel like as a community, sometimes we have to compromise and work together to make sure that everybody's comfortable, everybody's following guidelines and doing their part to be a good neighbor. I do understand that the standards are going to be a little different moving forward, considering that the music is going to be indoors. The hours of operation are going to be differently as well. Considering that, I think if the owner is willing to work with us and do their part, I think it's okay to move forward. And also, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Jimenez?
So this one is one that is very challenging, because I know where we want to take our city, I know where we want to take our downtown area, and I don't know if this aligns with the vision that we have, where we have a bunch of restaurants with loud music, like a college town, I guess you could say. I don't think this aligns with that, with the vision that we have for the city as a whole, first of all. I'm also very disappointed, and I tried to put 2 and 2 together, because in May they were approached by the city saying, please cease. They didn't, but I understand. You have to maintain your establishment, you're trying to cut back because you still have to support your employees. But it sounds like in August they stopped because they recited. That was what Officer or Marshall said. I think that was what stopped the music, was that they recited. So I'm having a hard time, and we're having speakers being affected, and, you know, having school-age children staying up till 10 with live music is also, or people that work, is hard, even on weekends. I mean, if neighbors have parties, people need the rest. You don't know if somebody gets up early on a Sunday for church and they're up till 10 because of the music. And my concern too is, you know, we have the neighbors saying it's going on till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. And I guess the history of them not complying with the request and not abiding by requests that we're making makes it a little bit difficult for me to really process and say, okay, have faith, they're gonna shut it down at 10. Like, okay, 10 o'clock, everybody go home. Well, not everybody, but the music is done. Especially, you know, we've all been young, we've all had a good time. Once people are having a really good time, everybody goes, otros 100 para la banda, like 3 more songs. I've been there. But, so that's why I'm very conflicted with this one, just because, you know, I understand it's a small business, family-owned business, which is great, but I'm also like, okay, the neighbors across the street. So I don't know. I'm very conflicted because this will be indoors. I don't know how much sound is going to travel. I don't know if the banda has microphones on top of it, because just the banda by itself is crazy. The Rancho Verde band came and they played at our school, and in enclosed area we had like 5 students, and even just 5 was like loud. So I'm very conflicted with this one because I am understanding of the applicant, I'm understanding of the business aspect of it. You know, we love having people come in and dine in our city. Like if we have restaurants that our community members can go to, amazing. But I'm also very, I guess, cognizant of the experience our neighbors are having, the development of the type of businesses that we want for our downtown area. And the concerns that Sheriff wrote, that, you know, initially when he wrote this letter in August, he said no, he did not really want to enforce it because of their lack of demonstrating that they're willing to abide by the regulations set forward. Now they're saying if it's indoor, maybe, that's what Marshall said. So I'm very conflicted with this one. I'm trying to weigh everything. And I guess, you know, what happens, I don't know if they're only documenting the one where an officer actually responded, or was it just a call that was documented? Like, I don't know what's logged where nobody responded and the call was put through. It was only those times. We are very short-staffed. Our sheriff department is very short-staffed. So if you call on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock because the music's not off, and they show up at midnight because that's when they can get around to it, and the music is off, I don't know if they're documenting that as a call, unless they verify it. So I'm very conflicted with this one.
This is Commissioner Lopez. Can I also add, I'm a little concerned about the late hours for Sunday, Sunday going all the way to 10 p.m. I do understand that you guys are running an establishment and you guys do need to make ends meet. If allowed, I would like to propose adding Friday and cutting the hours for Sunday, maybe to like limit them to brunch hours. That's my suggestion.
So you're suggesting to allow Friday and reduce Sunday hours?
Yes, reduce Sunday hours, correct.
Okay.
Can I get clarification on if the CUP gets denied, when can the applicant apply again, or can they apply again later?
I have to check that. I believe it's typically a year, but I need to check the guidelines.
If I can add, if the application is denied by the commission, the applicant may appeal the decision to the city council.
Thank you, Patricia.
So my thought is a couple of things. Since August, it sounds like they were, prior to that, they were doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They reduced it to, they removed Friday, then they removed Saturday, but they continued to do Sunday, even though they were in violation.
They continued every now and then Saturday, yes.
So, which is, you know that's a clear violation of it, which is, it's frustrating for your neighborhood to sit there and have to listen to it, even though it's a clear violation. The noise ordinance is, put on both sides for enjoyment. You're allowed to enjoy your music on your property without the exception of disturbing your neighbor's enjoyment on their property. And that's what the noise ordinance is doing. If you can hear noise from your neighbor's property inside your house, that music is too loud. So, there's got to be some element of restraint. Now it's on the interior side, but there needs to be some avenue of measurement for outside of it. If it's too loud on the outside, then it needs to be registered, and this noise needs to be reduced on the interior so it doesn't increase any disturbance around the property or their nearby neighbors. And then in addition to that, Paris has developed the downtown specific plan to improve the downtown area. This property has been there before then. However, we now have several properties that are being developed there to improve the downtown, including the Veterans Memorial. That it's improving their neighborhood and its appearance. I do believe that perhaps this might be an opportunity to improve some of the exterior of this property. And I would actually suggest that the fencing would be removed and the green chain link fencing be removed and replaced with the wrought iron fence or steel fence, if that is a thing we can actually request. But I do believe that the applicant has to understand that this is a conditional use permit, as was stated earlier, and you have to comply with it. And if you don't, you get your 3 strikes and you're done, and then you may or may not be able to reapply for it. And then on a second basis, if you get your 3rd strike and you come up again before us, we may not honor it at all. And you might get denied then. So it is an issue that to be taken seriously, and listen to the neighbors as well, their complaints and their issues with the intoxication and disturbances around the neighborhood. And I can't completely put it on the restaurants entirely for the intoxication and public disturbances, but I'm sure it does happen. And the issue is if it is coming from, if the drunkenness is coming from inside the restaurant owner needs to abide by the ABC rules and be able to effectively cut off an individual by drinking too much, and abide by those rules. One, it goes hand in hand. One, it's you're protecting the person's life, health and safety, and anybody in the neighborhood that they might be driving home and cause an accident, or even the worst case scenario is a death, and then the business has a liability issue because they were the ones that serving the alcohol to these individuals. But that was digressing a little bit on that issue. But the issue of having the music on the interior, and I believe what the noise ordinance said is that it can't be 80 decibels at your property line, if I'm not wrong. So I would actually suggest that there be some device that can register this noise at the property line or at the exterior of the building to be notified in the manager's office or something that the music is too loud and has to be turned down in that fashion. So.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I do want to clarify one thing about the 3 strikes issue.
Yes.
So that's condition 6 of the conditions of approval. And it's not 3 strikes and the permit is automatically revoked. It's
Correct.
3 strikes and they're subject to revocation proceedings. I just want to clarify that for the commission.
Okay, thank you. And can you clarify what, to us and the applicant as well, what that proceeding is?
So normally it would be 3 strikes. Well, under this, normal revocation procedure would be that the commission would consider essentially revoking the conditional use permit, essentially, if the commission determines that after a public hearing and going through the process provided in the code, that the CUP should be revoked, then that's gone. The applicant can no longer do indoor music anymore.
I have a question for the attorney. Can the commission request that there be a
Waiver of the revocation process and just revoke it?
That's, no, but that's very good. Instead of automatically denying a time frame, say 6 months, just an example, for the applicant to show good faith that they are willing to work with their current limitations, and then they can meet with the commission at a later date and an opportunity to review with the county, with the sheriff's department, and with residents if they choose to come back and give feedback. Is that something we can do?
So first of all, I do want to answer Commissioner Jimenez's question: is can they waive the procedures under the code? They can't. The law requires that we have to go through a public hearing process to revoke a conditional use permit, or most land use permits. But a lot more to it, but that's basically it. The secondary part, the question that you're asking, Commissioner Gomez, just want to make sure I understand it correctly. Are you saying you want to provide a process by which they can, before you give them the CUP, process by which they can try to comply with the conditions of the CUP?
Probationary period?
I don't know if that's, I don't know if our code allows that. Granting the CUP will allow them to have indoor music, and that's the main part, is that if they don't comply, then with the 3 strikes, if you will, at that point, then the staff can then initiate revocation proceedings. Of course, that doesn't mean that code enforcement and the sheriff's department enforcement does not occur. Just to be clear, it's just a process by which you revoke the CUP. That's one aspect of enforcement. There's the other aspect of enforcement as well, which is in code enforcement, through the sheriff's department. That will also build the record. I don't know if the code, I don't think the code allows for a probationary period per se. And I don't think we're necessarily equipped to do that tonight either, even if it did.
So how is the city notified with these violations, especially when the code enforcement is not always working on Saturday and Sunday?
We would have you depend on our sheriff and our code officer. They do have a rotational shift currently right now. It's not every weekend, but they do have a shift for that. So there's limited. We're working on some other process for additional weekend calls, but that's what's going on now. But so that would be the framework with which we would kind of have a record of what's going on.
So is it the code enforcement that has to provide the violations, or is it the sheriff's office?
It's both, because we have record of both code and police records.
How do you get notification of the police records?
We would follow up with code, fire, or sheriff. We would just kind of, at this point, because we have a kind of a 3-strike rule, we would just periodically check up with them and update the record. And if we see that there's more than 3 violation, we would.
And how often does your staff review violations from the sheriff's county or the sheriff's office?
In this particular case, we would create a mechanism to follow up with them probably every month or every other month for this particular case.
I do also want to note that it's report-based as well. It would require people to report that alleged violations are occurring.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to say
Yeah.
too. It's report space, number one, and I just found a bunch of apps because, I'm worried about the neighbors across the street in the second floor. Because noise carries when my next door neighbors have parties and I'm downstairs, don't really hear it, but once I go upstairs, it's like they're in my ear. There are some apps that can measure the decibel levels. So you can record that, and if you have somebody else with you, like you were showing, this is what it's reading, parties outside, to add to the reports, because that's very important to me. That's very valid. If, sleep, rest, weekends is when a lot of people are off. That's when some people want to have fun, but other people want to relax. So I just noticed, and I just looked, that's what I was looking for, I was not on my phone. There are a lot of apps that are free, and they are pretty accurate at measuring the decibels. So I don't know if that's something maybe also that we can do to encourage the community members to download that app and record it just as documentation, because, it's happened to me where I call for a party and the cops show up way after it's done, and, nothing's done because now it's over.
The applicant might not understand. It's hard to hear the loudness. It's loud, but you don't know how loud it is. So, a decibel, I can go through a lot of scientific thing with the decibel and how it increases, but I don't want to put you guys to sleep. But it's, it needs to be registered, and it needs to be registered at the outside of the building to provide provide the neighborhood the sense of quietness that they deserve and they live in the neighborhood for. So they know now that they live by the train station, and unfortunately they gets woken up at 4:30 in the morning, and I can hear it from my house too when they sound the alarm as they cross the roads and streets. But I am not. I don't want to extend their hours to Friday. The applicant's only requesting Friday and Saturday. But I am open to reducing the hours on Friday, or reducing the hours on Sunday a little bit to give the neighborhood a chance to quiet down for Monday morning.
No, I'm with, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's important too for the applicant to know, she can measure her own decibels. I was just looking up how loud a band is, and it can get between 102 and 105 for a small band in a closed place, just because it contains, and then you add people talking on top of the band because you're having conversations. So, something for the applicant maybe to consider too is to go around and measure her decibels, go outside and measure, because sometimes you're right, we might think it's lower than it actually is, because especially once you're in it, you kind of get attuned to it. But just, if the applicant just maybe encourage them to also measure their own decibels periodically, or measure it the first time you have the live band, how loud is it really? Do we need maybe to cut back to 8 players, or put some, I know there's things you can put on wind instruments to reduce the noise. So just, measure the decibels, because it may be a lot louder than we think it is.
Absolutely. So, so is there any further discussion that you guys want to do?
Just really quick, Kenneth, can you just clarify, you said that when you look back into the reports, does the city look for written reports or just calls? Because these are a lot of calls, but not all of them are written. So, I mean, as a resident, I'd be pretty upset that it's not written, but I mean, I'm not sure what protocol is with that.
So I think this was alluded to earlier. It just, the call has to get through and someone has to report it. So these are the reportable contacts. So this is the only way we can document it. So
Yeah.
some of the residents, they complain more. I've asked the sign planner just to get their contact so they can have direct contact with at least our code enforcement team, so that way we can keep a more thorough record.
Yes.
And so that will be, if whatever decision is made, we'll get their contact so we can have a more direct line of communication.
Any further discussions? So if we would like to make a motion, how do we want to make this motion? We did for revision, for sure.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
The revocation process, if it goes to that, how lengthy can that be? Because if it's a 2-year process and how quick can we move it along?
Well, unfortunately, I don't remember the exact procedures, but there's typically a
Hearing, I'm sure.
a hearing. There's a notice to the applicant, or rather the permit holder, to let them know that the hearing's going to happen. We schedule it for a planning commission meeting. In a normal situation, we don't jump straight to the revocation process. You go through code enforcement and develop a file at that point. In this situation, it's 3 strikes for violations, so then we would have 3 written documented violations of the conditional use permit. That could be, I think it's within 1 calendar year, is that correct?
Yes, currently right now it's 1 calendar year.
Right, so that occurred in 1 calendar year, and depending upon schedules and how things work out, I guess we could, I would say probably 2 to 3 months, but don't quote me on that. It just takes time to provide proper notice, because again, the reason for that is that you're taking away an entitlement.
Okay.
And once they get that right, then we have to be fair to them as well.
And I do want to just add the point that if for some reason they went beyond the boundaries of what we framed, we can still cite them. We can still escalate the citation process separate from the revocation process. So there's another mechanism that kind of encourages them to comply. So there's kind of a 2-prong approach that could be done too, if for some reason they do not comply with the requirements.
And the citation process is both criminal and civil, right? So it's not just a simple matter of, violations of the CUP, because you violate the noise ordinance. I forget what that is. It's either an infraction or a misdemeanor, but essentially we could go down that route. I mean, there's a lot of options for the city to enforce, is what I'm saying.
And these infractions would be noise only, not any other written documents? Just to clarify.
And Commissioner, also something to add is, if they violate the conditional use permit within a month, we don't have to wait the 12 months. They already violated 3 times within a month, we can come back and start the revocation process. And like Robert Koo indicated, it's a public hearing process, so we would just have to be able to document all the information and be able to come back to you after it's advertised for a public hearing. But we don't have to wait 12 months to come back to you with the revocation process.
That is a lot of typical about. I don't know. I think it would have been easier if the minute they got that seize, they stopped and they went through the proper channels. Like, it would be more feasible for us to just say, they're going to abide by these new rules because they've shown. And I think that was a sheriff's concern as well. And I'm pretty sure that's also the community's concerns, or that you call and, sheriffs are going to go in order of priority. Code enforcement also is going to go in order of priority. So if they're going around the city with, tacos and things like that, like they go by order of priority. So if, the community members are calling and there's not a response, I'm assuming there's times there wasn't responses. There was calls, no response because of what was happening elsewhere. That's what I am grappling with.
Yeah, and I'd like my fellow commissioners to also consider the fact that they're here today because they were cited. They were cited by the city. And right before that, on July 29th, they were called because there was a subject passed out in the restroom. And it's just, it's definitely it's a lot to think about. That's why I was asking if we could consider some kind of probationary period to show goodwill or on part of the applicant, because according to what we see here, it hasn't been shown.
So it sounds like their probationary period is a term of 1 year, to be extended from the last violation that has occurred
Right.
to the third violation that has occurred.
Can I ask too, is that only for the first year, or is that in general, like,
You know, as I thought about it, because the calendar year is kind of short for the remainder of the year, we could just say 12-month period from today if the planning commission choose to approve. If that's the direction, I think it would be, let's say, 12 months from the date the decision was made.
but what happens after that year? They can party whenever, and then nothing can be done? I guess my question is, are we measuring 12 calendar days from October till October, and then October to October? I don't know how those conditional use permits work. Like, once you get them and you pass that year, you're set, or?
It would, in theory, start over, but I'll ask Robert, our legal counsel, just because there's a documentation process that typically if you go through the courts, but I'll let him elaborate on that a little further.
So as the condition is drafted, it doesn't end. So that one year, let's say the way it's drafted right now, per calendar year, right? So they have 3 strikes until the end of this year, and then starting on January 1, 2023, it's reset, basically. If you switch it to 12 months, so that means from October 2022 to 23, then they have 3 strikes within the time period, but once you hit October 24, it resets at 3. That's what staff has suggested to put in there. So from that perspective, it's a continuous. It's there as long as they have the permit.
And this will, if they do sell the property, the conditional use permit is removed, or is it gone, it continues with the property, new property owner?
That's correct. Once, if they sell it, the conditional use permits run with the land. So it's whoever owns the property at the time would have to abide by those rules, provided that they're doing that use.
So can the violation be from one violation, from one time period of the first violation to the third violation, if it's within 1 year period instead of a calendar year or consecutive October to October period? Can it not be one violation is done in April of 23, and then the second one occurs in the year 23, and then another one occurs before April of 24 and not reset, and they have 3 violations with 1 year period? That's not how it works.
So if I understand what you're saying is that you're suggesting perhaps 3 and done, regardless of the number of years.
Within 1 year period.
Oh, within one year period. I think that's what is, well, when you say period, you mean calendar period or just from October to October?
From violation to violation, 1 year period.
So 3 violations within a 1 year period from the first violation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're saying.
Because you can have a violation in September, and your cutoff date is September 30th, so you can have one on September 29th.
I think that's something that's doable. We just have to draft it appropriately. And I think that's probably doable, provided, there are no other issues.
And can we also draft it so it's not exclusive to the owner? So if they sell and there's already two items there, they have to report that to the new owner, and they know they only have one more, or?
Well, I think the way it's drafted right now, it's not owner specific.
Okay.
So it just says
It's
that
location specific.
It's, I believe it's drafted to be location specific, but I get your meaning. I think that's something we can bake into that.
Okay.
That's a concern for me, because what if they decide to sell it? And
That-
there's 2, hold on.
Yeah.
If there's 2, they decide to sell it, but they can't sell it, and we're left with an empty building because no one wants to buy it because of those violations.
They just don't have music for the rest of the year. It's a choice
They
for
bought
the
it
new
without the
owner.
conditions of approval?
Well, just one thing to clarify is that even if there is those 2 violations, they have to abide by the rules. That's what the CUP states. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not a you get 2 chances to break the rules. You know what I mean? They're still going to get,
Citations,
enforced against citations and that sort of thing along the way. And I'm sure if there are complaints, there will be follow-ups by staff and whatnot. But I don't think that the way to look at this is not to necessarily say that it's you get 2 free passes, so to speak.
So is there a fee on these violations?
Generally speaking, when there's a violation of the code, there's a fine schedule that the city has.
Usually, a lot of times they give a warning and then they
Right. So the code enforcement process is, the goal is to gain compliance. It's not necessarily to shut businesses down. It's to ensure that they comply with code and conditional use permits. So typically, my understanding is that code enforcement will issue a notice of violation saying, hey, you're violating the code or the permit or whatever, and then give them a chance to correct. And then from there, you escalate, basically.
Do we know what the system is? Is there, I guess, a protocol or a system for certain amount of visits, the third one, fourth one? Is there a standard practice that everybody would abide by?
Yeah, there is a standard protocol for escalation of fines. I don't know that on the top of my head, but there is an escalation of fines.
I'm asking just because when I look at the record, there's a lot of them, and there was not a citation until August. So I guess that's why I'm asking, like, is there a protocol where we come out 2 times, the third time you get a small fee, continuous? Because they had a lot of calls, and it wasn't until August that there was a fine assessed.
Yeah, I need to check the record. I'm not sure how the police protocol works, but I just have to report back to you. That's fine.
Can we do a condition of approval having, considering this violation as 1? And they have 2 left?
I would say no.
Okay, just checking.
I do want to clarify is that the fines are escalating upon citation. So citation 1, it's typically something like $100 for the first
Sliding scale.
first citation, $200 for the second, $300 for the third, and then every one after that is another one. But I would also clarify as well is that each day that a violation exists, that's one separate violation. I do want to clarify as well is that as the condition number 6 is drafted, it's not that a citation needs to be issued. It's that 3 documented complaints is when the revocation process begins, just to be clear.
Documented complaints are calls, or are they written reports?
It could be a call and then which would result in a notice of violation. That's a documented complaint.
Because, again, officers respond according to priority, severity. So they may not come.
And one thing I do want to caution the commission on is that we may not necessarily want to be too restrictive. We do want some discretion for the officers to make a judgment call, essentially.
I agree. I think my concern, just hearing from one of our speakers earlier, where she was saying, if it was a different type of place, there wouldn't be as much flexibility. So that's why I was like, is there a standard protocol for regardless of the type? That's where my question was coming from, just protocol where, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this place. It could be another place within the city that also has similar conditions of approval. And I'm thinking ahead because with a lot of these things that come to the commission, we're always trying to be proactive and say, okay, if this is happening, if this request is coming through, that's going to kind of light a fire under the people to say, oh, okay, well, let me apply too. So we want to kind of set those high standards and expectations from the get-go so that future applicants don't say, well, they got away with it or they got this. So that's why I think we are so focused too, is we want to make sure we're checking all our check boxes, we're dotting our I's, we're crossing our T's from the get-go.
I just want to make sure the applicant understands our concerns, your community concerns, and they will be abided by. So they're not violated. And that our concerns are heard and not just heard and put on the shelf and forgotten about, and to be later violated, because not every time is going to be called, but this we don't bide lightly up here by the violation, and if it comes back to us, it's not good. There's one time that we're requested to extend a extended time period for construction, and I believe we were burned on it, so it's not going to happen again. So just understand that, you know, we won't always be up here, but this commission is very serious on being violated and being, you know, those items that not being heard and abided by. So I just want to let them know, the applicant understand that's how we feel. So is there any further discussion or on this item? Nope. All right, if we can make a motion, but I think we need to describe, we need to adjust the hours. What do you think the hours need to be? What would you suggest?
I would say maybe like 8 p.m., considering people work the next day.
Is that something we can do, is amend the hours?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Can we amend the hours? Because right now they're applying for 4 to 10 on Sundays. Can we amend the hours, or is it as stands?
No, the hours is one of the conditions, so the commission desires to adjust the hours there, then that's the pleasure of the commission.
Even though this zoning ordinance may say something different.
Well, the city ordinance just has like the decibels per whatever, and they're applying for
They do
music.
have a time period.
No, I think if you're just changing the time, it's a CUP, it's the discretion of the planning commission, what you think would be appropriate based on the circumstance.
I think the way to distinguish it is that what you're considering is changing the hours of operation versus what the code says is the hours at which certain decibel levels can be had. So that's two different things. If that makes sense.
Yeah, we're not asking for the.
So they can come back and say it was between 8 and 10, and we were at 80 decibels because they had live music indoors.
Right. You're not asking them to reduce decibels after, I don't know after 9 o'clock at night. You're not asking them to do that. You're asking them to stop the live music at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
That's a different approach.
Oh, perfect.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So 8 o'clock is requested. Any issues? Any amendments?
What do you think is fair for Sunday?
I think it's either 8 or 9.
I think I'm leaning towards 9 o'clock.
I'm thinking 9.
I'm open to that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would prefer 8, but I'm okay with 9.
okay. So we would like to amend the hours on Sunday to extend no further than 9 o'clock. I don't feel that we should allow Friday. They're not requesting it.
Okay.
They're not requesting it, right?
I also feel that we should request that they improve the rear fence, the chain link fence, and with the screen to a wrought iron fence or metal fence to upgrade the neighborhood.
I don't know if that's something we can request.
I think because of the request that's being made, it's not a new addition. I think there would be some concerns about a nexus making that request. We can work with the applicant about upgrading it, but if you want us to make a specific condition,
It depends on when it was installed.
yes, if it was installed without a permit, then we can work with it being removed.
And my guess is probably didn't have a permit.
And also with the trash enclosures, if the staff, can we request that staff just look into that?
Yeah, it would be a separate, but we can
Separate,
we can work with the applicant on that.
Okay, so at this time, those items won't be included. We just request that staff work with it. So we have the reduction of hours. Anything in addition to that?
I don't know if we can request a decibel measuring
Yes.
protocol. I don't know if that's something that we can request, or is something we can just encourage
Is that for the restaurant or?
Restaurant.
for the restaurant.
I think it's a little hard, Kenneth is telling me it's a little hard to implement and to carry out.
Yeah, I think just informing the residents, like the app, that could be ways they can document. You show us if when they file a complaint, we'll get their contact information. They can email code directly. We have the hotline and the email contact where they can make that complaint, and they can
But
submit that
Yeah.
information.
it does go both ways. So if
Yes.
the residents can have the app, the owner can have the app and measure it just as well.
So we could just encourage them to have that just so that they're also being,
Yeah, and that
respectful
was
of the
just more
neighbors?
just informational purposes for people who are here today.
okay.
I do want to clarify that regardless of whether they have the app or not, if they violate the decibels, they violate the decibels.
Yeah. The encouragement, it's to encourage the owner to be responsible for the noise.
Okay. Any other amendments?
I'm still worried about the downtown development area and how are we gonna do that? I was just in downtown Temecula on a weekday and they don't really have live music. It's more sports bars and things like that, which is a more. Mhm. There's a couple that have live music, but it wasn't.
No, they have cover
It's a
bands,
strip, yeah, but it's like the
It's
strip for
loud.
just that.
but there's no houses around there.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would know.
Okay, if that's all the amendments to the conditional use permits and conditions of approval, if we can have a motion, if, Robert, you want to read that and include the amendments?
Sure, it's a motion to approve, or rather to adopt Resolution 22-21 approving CUP 22-05199 to allow live music entertainment at the Nayarit Restaurant based upon the findings and conditions and subject to conditions of approval with the modification. I believe it's condition 8 or 6. It's condition 6. Kenneth, if you could read.
Yeah, it will be something along the lines of no more than 3 sustained complaints from the initial complaint to the third complaint within a 1-year time frame.
It would be the 1-year time frame of the date of the first complaint, so you can't get 2 more after that, basically, within the 1-year, 12-month time frame.
Yes, and just want to make sure, if we can request that the translator explain these conditions to the applicant, if the applicant is willing to listen. These are serious conditions that we really want the applicant to understand.
Understood. So the first condition, or rather the first modification is to condition 6, so that the way that 3 strikes works is that the 12-month period commences upon the first violation. So 2 additional violations, I'm sorry. First complaint, documented complaint, and then 2 additional complaints with the 12-month period of that first violation is when they would be subject to revocation proceedings as provided elsewhere in the condition number 6. The second change would be changing the live music operational hours for live music on Sunday to be cut off at 9 p.m. instead of the 10 p.m. And that would be a motion to approve the resolution as stated before with the 2, modifications to the 2 conditions as I stated.
Thank you. If we can have a motion. We got a motion for Commissioner Lopez in a second. Got a second from Commissioner Gomez. If we can have a roll.
Commissioner Gomez,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes?
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Shively,
Yes.
Can the translator please let the applicant know what the decision is?
with a motion of 3 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
Just to clarify, that was 4 yeses?
4 yeses.
4 yeses. So
With a motion of 4 yeses and 0 nos, this motion passes.
We don't have any business items, so we can go to item 9, public comments. Anybody wishing to speak to the planning commission on items not on the agenda may do so at this time. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
No, sir.
Okay. Any member of public? No, seeing none? Good.
I'm sorry, does the applicant have a question?
Yes, she does. She's asking if,
Mr. Chair, if I may, the item's already passed, and I think at this point, if
I
she
think
has
she
any,
needs to clarification if it's been passed.
is that the question?
Ha sido aprobado con condiciones, señora. O puede recibir sus condiciones con el miembro del staff después. ¿Sí? Sorry about that, Robert.
Okay. I think I was closing public comments at this time, so if there are no further public comments, we're going to close comments at this time. We'll bring it to item 10, Commissioner members' announcements and reports. Go to Commissioner Lopez.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Thanks staff for your presentation and for helping us out through the items on the agenda today. I know October is already here, spooky season. So I just ask that everybody's safe throughout this month. I know we're gonna see you guys one more time before Halloween, but yeah, I just wish you guys are all safe. You guys enjoying your time with your family. Have fun during the weekend. And yeah, just have a good night. Thank you all for coming.
Commissioner Gomez.
This is Commissioner Gomez. Just thank you everyone for your patience today. I'd like to thank the members of the public, our residents who came out today and gave us their feedback on the application that we went over today. It's important for us that the community be involved and also give us their input so that we understand what the community needs. Different areas of our community, businesses, residents, they all have different requirements, but also different needs. And I really appreciate it when they come out and they go through the process with us. It does definitely help us. I want to thank the staff members for their patience in answering our questions today as well. This was definitely went a lot longer than I expected. But I do appreciate your patience and listening to our concerns, being that when we work together and Robert is so nice that we're able to make a better decision for our residents. And Kenneth and Patricia, thank you all so much, everybody. Planners as well. There is a harvest festival on October 14th. I am excited because there's going to be a booth there from our church. There's going to be tamales, handmade tamales, so please come out and support our fundraiser. This is going to be our first time participating with the city, and I'm very excited to start that kind of relationship with the community as well. And I know that after that, there's going to be the tree ceremony. So this looks like the holidays are here, and they're going to come and go before we know it. I'm not sure if I can make this request now, but I'm not sure how we would know in the future if there's maybe make an announcement in the future before we start to anyone in the audience or an applicant who may need an interpreter, so that way we can get that done beforehand, offer those services. I know that we know we have it, but then sometimes we don't know that the applicant may need it. And that's why I wanted to have a little extra patience with the applicant today, because it looked, I'm not sure, but it looked like as if the opportunity wasn't offered beforehand. And I think that kind of, the communication there kind of was left out a little bit. But other than that, I can no longer hide the fact that I'm expecting. So that also contributes to fog brain. So I say one thing for another. So if you don't see me, if I disappear, that'll be why. And then hopefully, you know, with the new year, God willing, everything goes fine and I will be back with everyone. But for now, I'm going to try to hold off. Someone has requested that I hold off as long as I can.
Just 4 days, that's all.
And I would like to do so as well. So I'll be hanging out as long as I can, and I'm happy to be here. So, but other than that, without getting too personal, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Jimenez?
I really want to say thank you to our staff members also for being so patient with us. I know we ask a lot of questions, and I think that's the point of having the commission, because we're all looking at things from different angles and thinking. We bring our experiences, our backgrounds, and that really makes it better for our city. I want to say a special thank you. We have a lot of community members out there today, and I think that's great, because that's the only way to really get our city moving forward is when we have people come in and spreading the word. So for the community members that had concerns about the noise levels and all, go back, tell your friends in the community. You know, it was a learning experience for me too, because I didn't know what the process was. I would just show up at a restaurant and assume that they could have live music, and never thought that there was conditions of approval. Depending on where they were, there were conditions. I would just think it was a normal state of being. So that was a huge learning, and I think that's also why we have so many questions, is sometimes we see things for the first time that we haven't experienced. But thank you to the staff. And yeah, holidays are coming, and a bunch of events and stuff, food, all the good stuff. Candy for Halloween. So just hoping everybody has a good night, stay safe, come out, enjoy the things that our city has. Every time there's an event, I think there was a movies in the park that was wrapping up the movies in the park events, which was a beautiful turnout from what I could see. We can't always make it. We try to, and we try to take turns to make everything, but sometimes, you know, family calls, family duty. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you. So following up with Commissioner Gomez's request, I think it could actually be posted. You post it on our agenda, top of our agenda, that interpreting services are available. When we're sitting up here, we can't always, don't get it all the time that it's actually, to let them know that it's there. So we're thinking about lots of things when we're sitting here. Thanks to Kenneth, I did go to the KBN Park walk, and I did enjoy that, but I didn't see anybody else there. But I took my walk and hike, and yeah, I just enjoyed my time and took a couple pictures. Some pretty steep hills back there, and went up and went down. I almost got to the San Jacinto River, and I was like, I think that's too far, and I came back. And by that time, I think I was there. I walked into it 45 minutes or so. So it was a good hour and a half, 2 hour walk for me to go up and do that. So, but I did enjoy it. I know they have another one coming up the 19th or something like that, another Saturday at a different park. So I think they do offer that on occasion. So I'll probably go to more of them as we continue. Also, if we can potentially discuss our, I know Dwayne is out, so if we can perhaps postpone it, or our trip to go see the sites until he gets back. Maybe we can have that discussion with him, or I'll ask him to see how he feels about it, if he wants to attend, or if he will be able to attend when he gets back or not. So I have no further announcements, but we'll leave it open to the Director of Development Services.
Before I begin, I'm not sure, Patricia, do you have anything to say, or okay.
Eyes are on her. She is the Director of Development Services.
So real quickly, just as you alluded to, Dwayne Hammond is not here tonight. He's missed his 17 years of not missing a meeting. And so and he's going to probably group all those missed dates into the next 2 months. So, yes. So he had some medical things that he had to take care of, and he just recently took care of them. And so we expect him to be back the first meeting of December, the anticipated date. So, just that's the reason why he's not here tonight, and we won't see him at least for another month and a half. So I just want to make you aware of what's going on. The second thing is just want to, for the Harvest Festival, thank you, Commissioner Gomez. I just want to add a little more detail. I'm not sure, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but it's on October 14th on a Friday, and it's from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the City Hall campus. So if you have children or you just love Halloween, bring yourself and your family and kids here. There'll be a festive evening at the City Hall campus. Other than that, we'll work at the PC tour based on Dwayne's availability. So we'll kind of just try to shift it in December, maybe even to January, just knowing how busy things get in December. Other than that, just kind of as we plan for the next Planning Commission. So in 2 weeks, we will have a Planning Commission meeting, October 19th. So just put that in your calendar. With that said, have a good evening, and I'm going to pass this over to Legal Counsel Mr. Koo. He has some announcements to make.
Devastating.
Thank you, Kenneth. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this will actually be my last Planning Commission meeting with you all. I'm sure some of you are aware the City Council last month appointed me to be the city attorney for the city. So it's a big moment, and I'm humbled by and I'm appreciative of the privilege that they've given upon me. It's been a privilege working with you all. I'll still be around. I'll see you around. I'm sure I'll be covering, coming to the meetings once in a while. In the meantime, Ms. Yesenia Vargas, no relation to our mayor, will be the assistant city attorney. She'll be covering the Planning Commission's meetings from here on out, and through until she tires of it. No, I'm kidding. But I will leave you guys in her very capable hands. I have utmost confidence in her ability to guide you with a steady hand and the same clear advice that I've tried to give you guys over the years. But it's been a privilege working with you all. Thank you.
This has been the second time she's here, and each time she hasn't had a good meeting, so absolutely breaking her in, so. So if she's up to the challenge, she can stay. If not, you have to. If not, Robert has to stay, so. If there's no further announcement, then we can have item 12, adjournment. Thank you all. Have a good night.